How's it all do? How you doing, big guy? Spoken to Billy Brown yesterday. Spoken to Billy Brown yesterday. Doing
Oh, thanks.
0-0.
Everything good?
I didn't see you.
Bobby, how you
This council meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Law. This meeting of October 4th, 2021 was included in the list of meetings published in the Courier News and Star Ledger. Notice of this meeting was also placed in the bulletin board of Borough Hall. A copy of this notice is available to the public. A copy of this statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting. Mayor Dennis Sullivan.
Here.
Council members. Granville Brady.
Here.
Jane Kabuta.
Here.
Tom Mitchell.
Here.
Randy Pitts.
Here.
Roger Vroom.
Here.
Greg Weed.
Here. Please stand and join me in the flag salute and remain standing.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seems like a part of our regular agenda now where we honor a person from our community who's left us. Tonight I want to make mention of Mr. Joseph Arena. Joe was the father of Barbara Novato, a community member, very active in 4-H and in school activities for many, many years. Our kids went to school together. His father-in-law of longtime planning board member Bernie Novato. Joe was a U.S. World War II Navy veteran, and he served in the Pacific Theater on a minesweeper. So, we've all had people in our families that are military. But just think of the courage is needed to be on a minesweeper. He was active in his church, a big supporter of 4-H. He'll be missed. Joe Arena. Thank you. I call it the greatest generation. That's one living example of that. All right, we have one set of minutes for approval for September 20th.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Jane Kabuta.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Here.
Randy Pitts. Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Greg Weed.
Yes. Okay, we'll have committee reports. We'll start to my right with Mr. Mitchell.
Okay. The weekend journey is this weekend coming up. Borough Hall and the Fire Museum will be open for tours. We want to thank Rich O'Neill and the other Fire Museum volunteers for getting the museum ready after the fire they had. The Environmental Commission and Green Team participated in a cleanup of Peters Brook. We want to thank Jason Kraska for organizing it and all the residents who volunteered. The Wallace House and Old Dutch Parsonage will be doing a presentation on tavern beverages of the American Revolution on Sunday from 12 to 4 p.m. And finally, the multi-agency recovery centers distribute food and cleaning supplies, provide clothing, register families for assistance, and help people affected by Hurricane Ida to begin to recover. The next recovery center will be held at the Lincoln Hose Building at 34 Warren Street this Wednesday from 3 to 7 p.m. Okay.
Kevin, we have a copy of that flyer. Did you have this posted on our media?
Yes, I went out. so-
Okay, great, thank you. All right, Councilwoman Kubota.
One of my main committees is personnel. There's a little that I can, talk about personnel, but I do want to thank our public works people and the people of Borough Hall for getting us through this flood period. And I feel for the people who were flooded. There are some homes around my house. I'm high, but at the end of High Street, there are some places that are not very high, and I do feel for those people, and hopefully we can do something to the brook to stop this flooding. It's happening a little bit too often. And that's all I have right now.
All right, Councilman Fitz.
Thank you, Your Honor. First up is rec committee announcements. The rec committee, myself, would like to thank the volunteers that assisted with the parks and Greenway cleanup this past weekend. The cleanups are ongoing. Please contact the rec office for more information. Recreation is collabing with the DSA for this year's Spectacular, which will be held on Friday, October 29th, from 3 to 7 p.m. at Borough Hall, Main Street, and Division Street. Recreation will also be holding the annual Halloween house decorating contest. Details will be found on their Facebook page. And as a reminder to all residents, the 6th annual Somerville 5K Turkey Trot will be held on Thanksgiving morning. There will be local road closures along the route. Registration is open online. Police news. Tomorrow is Coffee with a Cop. The 2nd annual will be held at Sterling's. Come join us along with members of the Somerville Police Department and get to know the wonderful people who help keep our town safe.
What time is that, Randy?
9 to 10 tomorrow morning. And last on Sunday, October 10th, between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m., the Police Unity Tour will be passing eastbound on Main Street. The Unity Tour is a 4-day bicycle ride from New Jersey to Washington, D.C., which is made up of police officers from all over the country who honor fallen police officers and their families. There will be a gathering of all the Somerset County Police Departments in front of the Somerset County Courthouse on Main Street awaiting for the arrival of the tour. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this Saturday, we have inspection day with our fire department. It starts at 3 p.m. in front of our Borough Hall, and there's a parade that follows shortly thereafter, so we hope that you come out and support our firefighters. We have a couple of great resolutions on and ordinances on our agenda today that I know that people are excited to see go through. We have the Emergency Services Complex, as well as we have a resolution to temporarily replace one of the engines that was damaged during rescuing during Ida. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. And finally, speaking of Ida, I've been speaking with the members of the fire department, and more than 220 calls were answered by the fire in a 24-hour period during Ida. So that is quite a lot, and we thank our volunteers, our members of fire, our members of police, our members of our emergency management team and rescue squad for all of their hard work during what was a crazy 24 hours and still continues. So thank you to everyone who helped out with that and continues to help be part of the solution. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Your Honor. As Councilman Broom said, we are on the threshold of getting a new fire, police, emergency services complex. And I want to thank everyone who was involved from the bottom of my heart. This, we started maybe about three and a half years ago, and I quite honestly didn't think it would go along. I thought it was a great idea, but I said to myself, yeah, right, let's see where we go with this. And I don't mean the council, the mayor, or the people on the committee, I'm talking about we as the borough, have achieved what other administrations had only dreamed about. And that is the birth of a new facility that will service this bureau long after the rest of us are not here. And I really want to thank everyone who is involved in it. It's not over with. Once we ask the council for its approval, the next step is we have to now put some meat on those bones. So I'm asking all of us who are involved in this to come up with your ideas. What would you like to see in it? This should be an oh wow investment in the town. People come up Gaston Avenue and they're going to say, oh wow, look what Somerville has done. On a less exciting subject, the audit has come down. It will be published on the website for anyone who wishes to spend a few hours looking at figures. I can tell you I have quite a few bits of information. I don't think I'll read all of this tonight. I think I'll leave it for your amusement. We were in the black this year. This was a rough year, 2020. COVID, you know, it was predicted we're all going to have a rough time, and the borough came out in very good stead at this point. We have money that we have some surplus money, which we're obviously going to need now that Ida has been in the press recently. But it looks like we're going to be able to survive quite nicely. And again, for all of the people who were involved in it in the Finance Committee, I certainly appreciate that. As far as budget's concerned, I just want to let council know that one of my responsibilities has been to monitor the escrow account. For the public and for the council, escrow funds are deposited by persons who wish to build something in this town. When they get a permit, they have to deposit an escrow account with us. That money does not come out of the taxpayer's pocket, but out of the person who wishes to have the project done. And it's my responsibility to make sure those escrow funds are properly expended. They're given to consultants, attorneys, planners, engineers, all the people who are involved in a project to make sure that once that project is built, it meets the code and is safe for the public. So escrow funds are very important, and one of my responsibilities is to monitor that. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the Redevelopment Committee met the other night. We are concerned about what's been happening in town, especially the problems with flooding, and we're looking at some potential plans to remediate that, not from an engineering standpoint, but a redevelopment standpoint. The community can no longer tolerate having every so many years having a portion of it flooded out. And one of the things redevelopment's looking at is how we can work with engineers, with the DEP and what have you, to make sure that the properties that are being developed in Somerville are not going to be subject to the same problems we've had in the past. And that's it, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. President.
Yes, I just want, tomorrow, there are several youth services and municipal alliance committee throughout the county that are hosting the virtual presentation of the Upstanders. This is a documentary about resilience and the power of connection to end bullying. I think in this day and age, it's very important to remember this. So that's tomorrow night at 7 p.m. It's very important to remember, bullying can come in many forms and many medias. Let's remember, hope to end bullying. Under some DPW news, Ken's tree service is about 80% complete from removing the logs and the brush from the walkways in town. The town will be speaking with the DEP in order to complete the project because we may need some approval from DEP to conduct the final 20%. All cars have been removed from the brook that were there from the storm. Insurance negotiations are still ongoing with vehicles and equipment lost with DPW equipment. The pickleball courts should be open this week. there's been a little delay. The courts are in good condition, but with the way the fence is, they're having some issues with insurance. So we're going to, the plan is to remove the gate until new fencing's in place, so we're able to use those courts. I just want to make a quick shout out. Our social media has been booming. Compared to August, the number of people reached increased by 660% on Facebook and 329% on Instagram. This is very important because in order to get information out to the public, you know, Facebook, Instagram, those are great media tools in order to use to do that. Finally, this month is October, which means it is Attention Deficit Hyperactiveness Disorder Awareness Month. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder affecting both children and adults around the globe. To bring this up today, as someone who has ADHD, I feel it's important to recognize that we not stigmatize people, especially children, who have the disorder, but to understand better how those with ADHD see the world differently and to help them along the way. I can tell you, some of the symptoms that are common that I struggle with every day are restlessness, fidgeting, inability to maintain eye contact, and the appearance of quote-unquote not listening. While it is a daily struggle with anyone who has this disorder, I always like to remind people who say that someone suffers from it. No one with ADHD suffers. We thrive with it. So before you look at some, I'd like, and this is especially important for children who have this, because oftentimes it's undiagnosed. Before you look at someone that might be wandering or looking around and not paying attention, it's real important not to stigmatize, not to make assumptions, but realize that neurodevelopmental disability isn't that simple. And I just wanted to recognize that since October is ADHD Awareness Month. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. President, I would like to commend you on your comments. Unlike most folks in the audience today, I had the pleasure of knowing the young Fred Reed. Not that you're not young now, but the adolescent Fred Reed. He's 7 and 8-year-old Fred Reed. And there's a lot of hard work on his part, and a lot of special educators in the district and his parents. You've come a long way, and I commend you for being forthright. We all have lives beyond this table, and you get up to the challenge. But I do remember the 6-year-old Fred running down the hallways of Vanderbilt School. But
I'm still running to this day, just not down Vanderbilt.
One advantage of going last in committee reports is that I cross off most of what I was going to say, so I will be brief. While we're in the recovery mode of the storm, we have some services and projects returning. To no one's happiness, parking enforcement will begin again. We've been very tolerant with giving out citations, but we will be resuming parking enforcement. If you just follow the signs, folks, and pay the fee, you'll never beat our parking enforcement officer. But that will be starting up again. The New Jersey American Water restoration projects were on hold for a while, but they have resumed. So you'll see some piping going in. I was on Davenport Street just before the storm, and the work crew pulled out a piece of pipe with the date 1916 stamped on the cast iron pipe that they pulled out of the ground. So that shows you we've got some sections of the underground Somerville that you don't see until it's too late. So we're trying to be proactive in getting those sections fixed. So you'll see some ongoing road work. It was mentioned about some work at Peters Brook. We'd like to begin discussions with the DEP on dredging the brook. It's not as simple as going in there with a backhoe and shovels. There's a long process. I don't know enough about it yet. We have an engineering firm that's going to advise us. We're going to work with the DEP, see what's involved and see if it's a benefit to the town. Again, I don't know where that will lead. But we'll, we at least want to explore it to see if it has benefit. And last thing I have, another community event this Saturday at the county lawn, from 12 to 4 on Saturday. It's their second or third annual diversity festival. Food, fun, acknowledging the fact that we're all from different places, different cultures, blending together in the quilt that's not only Somerville, New Jersey, but our country as well. So certainly, welcome you to come out on Saturday and then join us here at Borough Hall for the fire inspection ceremonies at the end. So that's all I have in terms of community reports. I have 2 proclamations, one for Knockout Opioid Abuse Day, one for breast cancer awareness. As you know, October, as well as being other months, is also Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Probably very few families in town have not been touched one or multiple times by this horrendous disease. And my pleasure to have these 2 proclamations done. Kevin, I'll leave these with you. If there's a representative that needs to come and pick them up, otherwise we'll put them display in a prominent place. And we'll have other proclamations as in a timely fashion as they come forward. All right. A couple of items for discussion tonight, and I'd like to. Should we take our number 2 first, since he's here in the audience, Kevin? Is that all right?
However you like to proceed.
Yeah, all right. Youth Scout project of World War I Culver Street Monument. Culver Street Monument, as you know, was underwater, over the top during the last storm. And I chatted with Kevin about getting it clean. Veterans Day is coming up, and it definitely would need to be renovated. And I'm pleased to announce that we have an Eagle Scout who has stepped forward. Well known to most of us, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Cleveland. So, Mr. Cleveland Sr. to introduce Mr. Cleveland Jr.
Yes, my name is Larry Cleveland. I'm an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 83 here in Somerville. I am an Eagle Scout. My 21-year-old son is also an Eagle Scout, and I'm hoping to have Alex Cleveland to be our next Eagle Scout in our troop. So he's going to do a little presentation. So go ahead, Alex.
Sounds good. So, like you just said, my name is Alex Cleveland. I live at 34 Grand Avenue, Somerville, New Jersey, obviously. And right now I'm a life scout in my troop, but I'm trying to go for Eagle, and I thought this would be a good project. So, you guys can begin the first page, as you probably already did. I already said that, 17 years old. I'm a senior at Somerville High School. That's a picture of me. And what I basically want to do is to strip down the monument to the concrete base, and then I want to reseal and repaint it. And then also as you can see with the pictures on the next page, over here, as you can see, the bushes are kind of messed up. So I was hoping to also take those bushes out, and get new ones. And also using some sort of soft chemical, I would clean the 4 bronze plaques on the sides to make them look nicer. And then there's pictures of the damage. This is from the storm, and it's also just from overtime, like the paint chipping and cracking and stuff like that. So, yeah. You guys have any questions or anything?
Would you need any kind of expert advice in terms of the concrete work and the cleaning and stuff? Because I know with anything old and with grout, you might be well intentioned to clean it, but in cleaning it, there could be some damage done. So is there anything you would need in terms of expertise?
I was hoping to just kind of use the internet to do some research on stuff like that. I was going to talk to the county engineering people about what kind of sealant to use for the concrete so that it doesn't get wet again and then crack again from the inside. But other than that, I was hoping to just use the internet.
In terms of the cleaning, I've seen in national parks, there's it's almost like a wax. And maybe the county could advise you. So I've seen it being sprayed on, and then as hard as it peels off, and it removes the oxidation and the varnish. I think speaking with Ken, Ken, you have a background in public works, that's the direction to go in?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you were able to connect with Graziano here.
You don't know, how you doing?
Okay, you guys.
No, we haven't met yet.
Okay, well, there you go.
We could,
Obviously,
yeah, I know power washing business and I know exactly everything.
I figured you can connect. He has a company I offered to assist the borough last meeting as well as assisting. I figured it might be a nice connection. He has some expertise in it. And I think that, you know, that's the way these Eagle Scout projects come together, right? Building folks together to join in as well as serving as the general
Time
contractor.
constraint present any problem for you? Have it done by the 11th of November?
I was thinking of doing it for that since that's like Veterans Day, and that's obviously why. So yeah, I was trying to have it done by then, but I'm not sure if we'll be done by then. Right now, my deadline is like Thanksgiving because I'm 17, I'm a senior, so I'm trying to find a college.
And the plantings might be an issue too at the time of year.
So I guess.
He could go to shoot for, but.
We understand.
Yeah.
No, I, as the son of a veteran, and no better way to honor our men and women than to have, you know, lasting tribute. I don't know whether the public knows or not, that monument, when it was first installed, had a World War I, I believe, machine gun on top. And somewhere between the year it was built and maybe some of our older residents might remember, it disappeared. I assume it's in someone's collection somewhere because there, what else would you use it for? I actually was at the World War II Museum in Fairfax, Virginia, and they had one there on display from World War I. I'm actually trying to find some Army surplus somewhere to bring that one back, but so far no luck with that. But it would be nice to get the base restored and bring it up to, you know, bring it up to its former glory. So unless council has any objections or questions, I would turn it over to our scout.
Which the borough owns the property, and as far as we know, we may own the statue. It doesn't seem to have an ownership attached to it, but we own the property.
So there's no other approval needed. So I'll entertain a motion to accept this project.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Jane Cavuta,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. Let us know how we can help.
Yeah, cool, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good project, yeah.
Thank you.
The other gentleman's here as well.
All right, I'm sorry, we have a second Eagle Scout project, the ABC Park on Davenport Street. Scout, if you would come forward, identify yourself.
This scout is also a scout in our troop. His name is Ankit Mani. He's got a project to restore a small pocket park on Davenport Street. Ankit and Alex have been together since they're 7 years old. I have pictures of them when they were this big on their first day of Cub Scouting, and now they're this big, going through the scout.
Well done, Scoutmaster. Scout, please come forward and introduce
As
yourself.
mentioned, I'm Ankit. I live at 15 Everett Drive. I'm right in Somerville. Just close-ups of what I want this. I'm here to get approval for a project to beautify, I guess, ABC Park. So part of it is cleaning up the blocks themselves, as well as the pillars on them. We're planning on power washing them and then painting them green. We're gonna paint them green. Then to add to the, like, you know, it's called Children's Parks. To add to that aesthetic, we're gonna paint like decals of, like, you know, like rocket ships, horses, you know, kids stuff, whatever. And after that, the two benches there kind of disappear. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take them apart, which should be pretty easy. They have screws on the back, and we just take them apart, we paint them brown, repaint, and fix up the sides, and we'll put it back, and then we plan on actually grilling it in, because during the storm, one of them got whipped, I think it's the brook or something, and we couldn't find it for a while. But I went back yesterday and I saw it there, and I mean, it was great. It saves me a lot of money. After that, if you see the close-ups of those pictures, some of the letters on the blocks are like really deteriorated. So I'm planning on painting those, and then we're gonna use like a chemical rust remover to like get rid of all the rust. Then on the sides, like up the path, well, first of all, on the path, there's a lot of weeds, we're gonna delete those. Then on the sides of the path, we're gonna kind of dig that up. We're gonna get rid of the rose bushes, because like those are hard to maintain, like you gotta have a lot of pruning equipment. So instead, we're gonna put in perennials, like box plants, that kind of stuff. So we're gonna put like 5 on each side. I think it would just make it look nicer, because before, like the rose bushes would be like covering up the ABCs and you could like barely see it from a distance. And then at the front, like in the fence, I'm gonna kind of dig that up and plant bulbs. However, it's coming up in November, which means it's gonna be kind of hard to plant. So I talked about this to my scoutmaster, and I asked if we could adopt this park, because currently Troop 83 doesn't have a park. Like Troop 84 has a couple around town, Troop 83 doesn't. So if we adopt this park, we'll be able to add stuff to it for like, here's strong. I get my project done, they get a park. And yeah.
And would that be for public use?
Park.
Yeah, I mean, with Troop 83 adopted, that would be for public use, correct? Yes.
And then finally, originally, so this is to commemorate 4 kids that died at the house fire on that plot. So there were originally 4 trees, but they were all planted so close together that over the years they all just fell down, except for 1. My plan is to add 3 more trees. One probably right behind the ABC block, and then 2 spread out. And the DPW has agreed to provide transportation for those trees from the arbor near the World War I memorial. The Girl Scout arbor trees. So we'll take 3 trees from there. We'll dig the holes. We'll dig them out. We'll dig the holes for them.
Questions from council? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Jane Cavuta,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Let us know how we can help.
Need a couple more Eagle Scouts.
Yeah. And Mr. Cleveland, job well done.
Well done.
These are good guys. Both good guys.
Yes.
Can we take a 2-minute break so that Kevin can sign some paperwork?
2-minute recess.
Thank you. I just asked.
Straight up. Done at an angle.
Well,
Unless they want to do it some other way. It's getting cold at night, and most dealers take a certain temperature for 24 hours. Yeah. So the sooner the better right now. It's only dropping into the 40s right now, so. It is.
Thank you.
We are back.
Good job, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Look forward to hearing from you.
That's exactly what it is.
Kevin, we have a third item for discussion, or is it that?
I believe Colin Driver was given an update if it's necessary, if not, then we can.
I can if you wish, or we can do it in the question and answer.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, so our first ordinance for public hearing and adoption, which I'd like to read in full, 2645-21-0920, authorizing the leasing of property known as Tax Block 73, Lot 16.02, located in the Gaston Avenue redevelopment area, to FDS Somerville NJ LLC, contract redeveloper pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law, NJSA 48:12A-1ET SCQ, the Emergency Services Facility Project. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Council members Graham O'Grady,
Yes.
Jane Cavuta,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell, Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Public hearing on this ordinance. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone, name and address for the record, and direct your comments to myself.
I'd like to start, please. Good evening. Mike Kerwin, 8 Everett Drive, Somerville. This is an historic night. I think one of the things I like about Somerville is we got this great tradition of every generation or so doing what it takes to invest in our future. And we did it a generation ago when we extended Vanderbilt School, and I know Mayor Sullivan, you talked about the generation before that that did what it took to create a new high school. So I view this project as equally significant. Our generation's turn to step up and do something significant that will put our community in a great shape moving forward. So kudos for getting to this point. I know it was a lot of effort from a lot of people, but I think, you know, maybe the Hurricane Ida, we're ready. We're ready to move forward, right? As someone who used to sit on the jury for Deal of the Year, very complicated real estate transactions, it was a very cool experience to see what other projects look like. This one's pretty good. I mean, this, you know, I don't know if the public can really appreciate it, but the design, build, lease back, that's pretty sophisticated, and you know, it makes me proud of our borough that we have the ability to do that kind of sophisticated transaction. So, you know, and I think that this made sense to me, you know, when I saw how it worked out, you know, because again, this is not, we're not buying a truck that's going to last, no, this is a 100-year investment, right? So taking a long-term approach, I think, made total sense. Next point I would just like to make, because this really hasn't been brought up too much, you know, there's sort of perennial planning questions in Somerville. One of them always was, you know, what is Gaston Avenue? It's not Main Street, nor should it be. Like, what the heck is it? And no one, you know, for decades, no one had the answer.
It was a bakery.
Yes,
It
that's
was a
right.
good bakery.
And a deli.
Yeah, well, now we know what it's gonna be, right?
Yes.
So we are in effect creating an anchor on Gaston Avenue and when you create anchors, there's leverage, there's peripheral effects. So God knows what they will be, but we can be fairly confident that this will inspire further investment and redevelopment along Gaston Avenue. And Gaston Avenue will then become known as, it'll kind of answer itself, and become this another new cool section of town that, you know, is uniquely, you know, whatever it turns out to be. So, thanks again. I want to echo what Councilman Brady, let's make this a wow project. You can always do it cheaper. That's always doable, but we want to do it right. From over 100 years perspective, we want people to say, who were those geniuses back in the day that did this project? So I think we take that, and I say the collective we, joining together as a community, coming out of a natural crisis to do something spectacular that, you know, future generations will be, you know, will kind of say fantastic. So thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else from the public would like to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Ray. Jim Barry, 102 North Adhd, Somerville. I've been involved with the emergency service project ever since its inception. I've sat with Richie when they did the initial scoping. And one of the questions that's always been asked is the squad going to be allowed to go be part of that facility? And that's what I'd like to find out now, because there are different variations. That's why I was just curious what the intent was on your decision on that.
The project, as it is right now, will include a new fire station and police station. Will not include the rescue squad in that particular facility. But with the vacation of the West End Hose Company over on West High Street, it's envisioned that that facility would be made available to the rescue squad, so that you could get out of your flood-prone, facility on Park Avenue.
Okay, because I know we have a few more vehicles that probably will not fit into West End Hose.
Well, we do have, with the new facility, there's an extra bay.
Okay.
There's one more bay, I think it's a 5-bay configuration, if my memory stands me right. Right now, we have 4 main apparatus. So there is potential for, I believe, for some additional storage over there. Don't hold me on that, I don't have the plans right in front of me. But I can assure you that the rescue squad has been contemplated to be at least a peripheral part of this project. The original scope was much, much larger. It included a county facility
Correct, I was involved in that.
and a parking deck. It's gone through many, many reiterations.
So the bay configuration hasn't changed, correct?
I'm sorry?
The bay configuration hasn't changed?
I believe right now, and I think we have 5
It
bays.
remains the same.
It remains at 5?
Yep.
Yeah.
It remains at 5.
It's at 5.
And the 5th bay will be dedicated for emergency services, not fire.
With the idea of an ambulance on the east side of town for that intersection, when the river rises, we're 2 towns.
Yeah.
And we're trying to anticipate as best we can, the needs going forward, as the former mayor said, for at least half a century. I don't know if it'll be a century, but I'd like to think it is, but, we're trying to build not just for today.
So thank you very much.
And thank you for all you folks did in the, it's a month, I can't believe it's a month.
Yeah, it was a combined effort between fire, police, and EMS doing all those rescues and standbys and transport. So we all work together.
As we always do. Anyone else from the public? Yes.
Good evening, Steve Wyman, 29 West Spring Street. I come to you tonight speaking as a member of the rescue squad, not as an OEM individual, an individual with 35 years of emergency services experience. I want to get some clarification here. There's 5 bays that are going into this building. You mentioned the 5th bay would be open for emergency services. It's a very ubiquitous term. The rescue squad is part of the emergency services infrastructure of this town. I can certainly tell you that a month ago, when we were up here in our EOC, and we were listening to the calamity that was going on, people being rescued off the roofs of their cars. It was the rescue squad out there with the fire department and with the police department. Those individuals put their lives on the line. What I want to hear from you all tonight is a commitment the rescue squad will be part of this building.
Yes.
But Mayor, just in all respect, you just said a minute ago, that what? Talking about the building on Gaston Avenue. I understand that West End Hose is a component of that, and that's fine and dandy. And part of this process since the beginning, at every iteration of the building, including the current plans that I have seen most recently, there's a bay that has true ambulances in it. There's an office that's marked EMS. I just simply want to know, is the squad part of the Gaston Avenue building?
Yes. Current plans that we have that we're acting upon tonight include those components.
And that will continue on through fruition, that the squad will be a part of this come cutting the ribbon day.
Yes. What else from the public? Motion to close. Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Jen Kabuda.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell. Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Greg Weed.
Yes.
All right, now I need a motion for adoption. So moved. Second. All right, let's go around if you are inclined to speak, don't feel obligated, but we'll start with Police Commissioner. Mr. Mitchell? Mr. Wood? Mr. Brady?
I've said a lot. In answer to Mr. Weinman and the rescue squad, ambulance is an issue. You also have heavy rescue equipment. You've got a lot of equipment. So the idea is you're going to have to give us some direction here as well. So right now we're looking at the building. We're not looking at an outfitted building. Once we get the building built, our task is to outfit it. And this is where we're going to have to put as much energy into that effort as we have into getting it built.
Permission to respond?
Yeah.
And I absolutely agree with you. But, again, at every step of the way, including an article that came in and tapped Somerville today, the rescue squad was not mentioned in that building. West End Hose was mentioned, but the rescue squad, other than the fact that the squad building flooded for the 100th time, was not mentioned in that. I respect all of you up there. I respect Mr. Driver. I respect everything that's going on. I've been part of this process.
Jumping out of my skin to answer.
Yeah, it's okay. I know you are. But at the end of the day, you have got a group of individuals. You've got a group of men and women that for 93 years have dedicated weekends, holidays. And I mean, we're talking 5, 10, 15, 20 calls a day, not to mention the rescue aspects that we work collaboratively with our fire department on. We just simply need to have a final decision on this and not this wavering back and forth that I hear yes at one moment and then I see something published the other day. My wife called me up at work this morning. She said, "What's up with this? I just read this article and tapped in. Squad's not even mentioned as being part of this building." So we just need to have a finality to it. If the squad is not going to be part of this building, say so now, because the squad needs to be doing some reconsideration of a lot.
I guess I'll just have to write a letter to Pat, I won't.
Well, no, he gets
No,
it nearly right.
I'll break protocol.
No, and you know, and you know, Rod does a phenomenal job, and he's a reporter. He's a consummate reporter, so he reports what he hears. And I got to tell you, I've been on the inside listening to stuff also over the last few years, and there's just inconsistencies. We just need to get rid of inconsistencies. If what happened a month ago doesn't show that we don't need to have inconsistencies anymore in emergency services, I don't know what the heck does.
Can I, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
Last time we spoke,
Thank you.
last time we spoke, when we presented the plans on the 2nd of August here, there were 5 bays with provision to put ambulances. Upstairs, which is essentially an open space to be determined how it's going to be used, but it's always been discussed. You have to agree there would be an OEM portion to that, and there would be some form of communication for emergency planning. That's as far as it's got. It's a box right now. So it hasn't changed at all. The ambulances can be there should you want them to be there. What happens upstairs, we've got to more clearly define. And if you want to really draw lines on that one, you're more than willing. But right now we're asking permission to build a box, put a police station and 5 bays in, and to do the fit out as we're going through the 45-day appeal period.
Sure.
Now, if that's not clear, I can't be any clearer.
Well, I mean, Colin, I'm a medical guy. I live in the world of clarity. And when I treat a patient, I'm very clear with where I'm going.
Well, if I was dying, I'd like for you to look after me.
And I'd love to take care of you. But the point is that I just, and again, this is no reflection on you or anybody. It's just there is not enough clarity to this process for this organization that has given so much to this community. That is my point. That's just what needs to be under consideration. And I see a lot of stuff, and I realize a lot of things will change. That's fine. I want it to be seen as an emergency services partnership amongst all emergency services.
And I think, as Dr. Brady said, that discussion will occur, and it will occur soon. If we don't build the thing, the discussion's not worth having. And that's where we are tonight.
Yeah, I could agree.
Let me get Mr. Reed.
Yeah, all I'll just say is, this is a long time coming, and I'll just leave it as no one wants to see the sausage get made. It's been a 3+ year process, and we wanted to get this done, and looking
so we're ready to Mr. Fire Commissioner?
Just happy we're getting
One quick comment, Mr. Mayor.
I use my comment just to clarify issues where the ordinance we're talking about, 2645, is the land lease. It doesn't include the building at all. That will be the next ordinance, 2646.
And I'll just echo what our former Mayor Kerwin said before. Each generation has tackled something. I guess back in the 1909, 1910, they put sidewalks down, they put gas lights down, and they put hard pan streets down. There was a trolley line. And we built schools. Lafayette School was built. I'm sure that was a state-of-the-art building at its time, and each successive generation has gone through major reinvestment in the town. And I see this as a need, and looking forward, I hope people someday just nod their head and say, yeah, they did it right. So we have a motion, a second on the table. Have a roll call for adoption.
I had the motion from Councilman Brady and second from Councilman Broom, is that correct? I didn't notice it. Okay. Sorry. Council members Granville Brady?
Yes.
Jane Kabuda?
Yes.
Tom Mitchell?
Yes.
Randy Pitts?
Yes.
Roger Vroom?
Yes.
Greg Weed?
Yes. All right, our next ordinance for hearing and adoption, 2646-21-0920, authorizing the borough to enter into a build-to-suit lease for property known as Tax Block 73, Lot 16.02, located in the Gaston Avenue redevelopment area with FPS Somerville NJ LLC, contract redeveloper pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law NJSA 48:12A-1ET SEQ, the Emergency Services Facility Project. Need a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady?
Yes.
Jane Kabuda?
Yes.
Tom Mitchell?
Yes.
Randy Pitts?
Yes.
Roger Vroom?
Yes.
Greg Weed?
Yes. Public hearing is open for this, and as the councilman pointed out, this is not the land lease, this is actually the build-to-suit lease. So any comment on this? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record.
Mr. Joe Augustine, like, 83 million. Now, this is a land lease from who?
From the borough to the, no, the other way around, from the developer to us.
Who's the developer?
Developer is a Stonewater from Virginia, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, we did a search several years ago. We asked for companies to submit qualifications and check their background, check their financial wherewithal, check their experience in building other properties like this. And they were chosen from, I think, three or four different companies.
You're leasing the property to them.
We will be leasing it to them. No, they will be leasing, okay, we're leasing
They'll
them
be
the
leasing
property.
it from you.
And they'll be building the property, we'll be leasing the
They'll be-
building from them at the
What
end of the
do- what-
lease.
So it's like a rental property, you're leasing it to them, make the lease profit.
Well, we're giving them the land. They're gonna build the building. We will be the tenant. We will pay them over a 40-year period. At the end of the 40-year lease, we will own not only the land, which we own now, but we will own the building as well.
What do you do?
Yes.
I'll open around and see.
I hope you know what you're saying.
That's true. I got my own problems. But what are you gonna do with that drain pipe that goes through that property?
Move it.
That's gonna be moved.
Sit down until it's our turn, because that's
Fine.
the only discussion.
Part of the project is to relocate that drainage.
What's in? You know how far that goes?
I don't have the technical details.
Well, you built a bridge. There's no brook there. I don't know what you did. But you built a brook on you built a bridge on Reed Hill Avenue. There was a brook on the map of Somerville, there's a brook. When the hospital built the retaining basin, you allowed them to dump into the brook. There's a bridge on Reed Hill Avenue. And this is my problem with my sewage problem, okay? Because it's all backed up. It's not clean. It runs down through government's property, on down the brook. Now, why would you build a bridge? There's no brook. That's my, I understand, 150% we get building this municipal building. Where you are. But how do you stop, how are you gonna reroute that drain to the brook? How are you gonna reroute that pipe? And the man just said, there is a pipe that goes under the store, goes to the brook. And you said you're gonna reroute it. You're gonna
Okay.
reroute it.
I'll answer you. It goes through the corner of the property, that pipe. We've had engineers look at it. We're gonna make it go down Gaston and do a 90-degree turn down Cliff. We're gonna take it out from under the property.
Let me ask you a simple question. It starts at Regal Avenue.
We're not going there. We're
Well, that's
just
my
doing
problem.
that section.
But that's all clogged up. It's not, that's why I'm here tonight.
Listen to me, just sit until it's our turn, let them get through this part.
Okay, let's get through that now. We'll find out
Thank
later.
you.
Thank you.
All right, any more public question or comment? Motion to close?
Oh, I'm sorry? Yeah, yes. Chris Cutler, 64 Mountain Avenue. I'm just curious, what's the total value of the entire project? And how, tell us a little more about the process by which you determined that this was the most cost-efficient route to build the product, build the structure for the witness.
All right, the schedule that I have in front of me is Exhibit E, which is part of the record. We'll be leasing the property to Stonewater for $1 a year, as is traditional with government leases. The lease back from them to us, the first 5 years of the project, once the project is completed, will be $1 million for the first 5 years, and then from year 6 through year 40 will be $1,524,812. So approximately $58 million in
Over
total.
40 years, yeah.
The options for construction of a project of this magnitude would be the lease that we explored, which we have in front of us tonight, or the traditional bonding of a lump sum of money with a payback schedule. Unfortunately, based upon our CFO, our administrator, and our financial consultant, the borough does not have the wherewithal. Correct me, Kevin, if I'm wrong here. We would have enough money to borrow this. We could never borrow money to pave another road while we had this debt on top of us. And this in turn would also encumber the schools from any future bonding, because any school bonding that would be done is included with the borough's money. So it's one big total based on the total value of the town. So to get the project built in an expeditious manner, we explored the lease purchase option, and it was our opinion that this was the most efficient and the most cost-effective way to get the project built.
So if it were paid for cash up front, it'd probably be $35 or $40 million based on what interest rates are today, just a guess.
I've heard around 30 to 34.
So I
If
guess-
we had that kind of cash.
The question is, if we had a flood every 3 to 5 years and lost our equipment, the fire departments and the rescue squads, we might actually be better off having the floods than build the structure because the structure is so expensive. Am I correct? I mean, the value of all the fire trucks and the other equipment lost is going to be a few $1 million, right? And this thing costs $35 million. I'm not saying that's a practical solution, but I'm just wondering, this is a very ambitious project for a small town. Spending $35 million on a structure, and maybe the older model of living off of what we have might be a more practical solution for us.
Well, everything was explored. This project didn't just generate in the last year or two. This goes back. I remember seeing a model of a former firehouse, probably 8 or 10 years. We actually were looking at land on Veterans Memorial Drive, way back for a new facility. And that now, of course, is a rateable, commercial project. So we've been looking for a while to relocate and consolidate what we have, because what we have now is archaic, inefficient, and not suitable for future growth. So the concept of building one facility to consolidate everyone in one roof has been around for a while. And we had a lot of expert opinion brought in on this.
So there's also cost savings that should be deducted out of that 35 million, whatever the figure is, right? Because you're saving costs, having fewer facilities, you might be able to sell the land around the
Well,
police
that's
department.
one intent is for this facility to eventually be sold.
Right.
The ratables. The others, we don't know. The one on East End, it's in the floodplain.
Right.
I don't know what value that has, to anyone. In West End might have an adaptive reuse, and the property on Lincoln, Lincoln Hose Company on Warren Street is privately owned. That would be up to that company to make a decision on what they would do. But at least from a borough standpoint, this particular facility will be phased out the day we cut the ribbon there.
Right, thank you for that. And the other aspect of the question is how did you go through the process? You mentioned you talked to 4 contractors, but why is this one the best of the 4? And that you're confident that's it?
We had a matrix that was developed by our redevelopment consultant in terms of how we scored their presentations based on how they presented themselves, their financial backing, their experience with other projects. Stonewater has been in the business of governmental buildings for a while, and they had a vast array of other projects that they have completed already. So our redevelopment committee looked at the score sheets. We had a second interview with the 2 top scoring companies, and we eventually decided upon Stonewater as the best fit for the borough in terms of their ability to do the project and to do it right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, motion to close.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes.
Jane Cavuta.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell. Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
All right, motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments very quickly? Nothing that hasn't been said already. All right.
I can say one thing.
Yes.
One of the concerns that people have today is property taxes. The anticipated payout will come from that revenue that has been obtained and will be obtained by contract with the various developers known as pilot payment sewer taxes. And the financial work that was done was with the assistance of Phoenix Financial Advisors. And it was determined that there's more than adequate funding for the project to be funded. Keep in mind one thing. This is a flat lease payment. It is not escalating. So it's paid for in 2021 dollars, but those dollars will stay the same for the length of the lease. However, the revenue from pilot funds is somewhat variable because, as we all know, things will get more expensive as time goes by. So we anticipate in a very conservative way that the pilot funds will continue to go up as projects are developed in this town, but the lease payments will be on a flat basis.
Concept of like a fixed rate mortgage.
It's like a fixed rate mortgage, but the fixed rate mortgage incidentally always has property taxes tied to it, which is why it always costs more. Here, we're not paying any property taxes.
All right, roll call.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes?
Jane Cavuta.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Thank you, council. All right. I have a third ordinance, less lengthy, less costly, but probably more timely. 2647-21, there's 0920, amending chapter 149 entitled Stormwater System of the Somerville Borough Code by removing existing chapter 149 and replacing said chapter. Motion for public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady. Jane Cavuta.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell. Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. All right, public hearing is open on stormwater ordinance.
Stormwater flood.
No.
All right, hearing no comment, motion to close.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady.
Yes?
Jane Cavuta.
Yes.
Tom Mitchell. Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes.
Motion for adoption.
So moved.
Tom, I know you wanted to give a quick clarification.
Yeah.
I mean, the ordinance is like 50 pages, so.
Right, and I will not read the ordinance for you. This ordinance was introduced originally back in the spring at the request of the Environmental Commission. It was modified somewhat from the original suggestions that we received from the state in order to meet sustainable Jersey requirements. Then the state, DEP, was to review the ordinance before we adopted it, and they failed to do so. They did not reject it, they did not accept it, they just forgot about it. So we reintroduced it without the changes, and so that it won't have to be reviewed by them at all. And we introduced it last meeting?
Yeah, that's correct.
Anyway, just to clarify, this would not have had any effect on the damage caused by Hurricane Ida, because the stormwater in Hurricane Ida backed up into the river. The river was many, many feet above flood level, I think 18 feet above flood level, if I'm not mistaken. Completely submerging the outlets for the storm water system. What this ordinance does is ensures that the ground will continue to be able to accept rainwater as it comes down, and not add additional flood level waters to the river and brook during a brief rainstorm. Major event like Hurricane Ida, unfortunately, it could have very little effect on it.
All right, motion, second, roll call?
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Jane Kabuta,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. All right, so public hearing, motion to open?
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Jane Kabuta,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell, Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. All right, public session's open. If you address your comments, questions to myself, come to the mic and give us your name and address for the record. Mr. Augustine, and I'll come up.
Hello.
So,
I'm Julie Augustine, 83 Lincoln Avenue, Somerville. I've lived here my whole life. My parents have owned that house since I was born. I currently live in their basement. I got flooded, obviously like everybody else, but I got sewer water. This is the 5th time it's happened to me in a 12-month period. I have police reports. I have fire reports. I have pictures of Regal Avenue's manhole literally looking like a geyser. I have pictures of syringes coming out of my shower and toilet paper and condoms coming out of my sink. I have denial letters from the Borough Council or insurance company telling me my claims are illegitimate and your sewer's not backed up. Now, of course, the flood was devastating, and occurred natural. I didn't get rainwater. Everything I owned went out because it was saturated in poop. I have psoriasis on my feet. I had to spend $300 to get shots in my feet because the sewer water affected them. My parents have gone through this for 35 years. And We know it's because the hospital keeps building and building and building. Now, you are council, I see everything has to be passed. So every time they upgrade or add a toilet, it's coming into my basement. And you have to approve it. I have an article from summer 2021 from Healthier Living, Robert Wood Johnson, that they're gonna expand 2 floors on the pavilion, which is gonna add 21 toilets. That's another 21 flushes an hour. After the flood, which was September 1st, on September 6th, it was a Thursday, it was beautiful. I was out downtown helping clean up flood nests for other people, because I've lived here my whole life. And I came home to find my whole basement rolled again. Why? Because the sewer was overflowing. So we have no DPW trucks, so you guys send a truck from Danville. It takes him 2 hours to clean out the thing and pushes it back in, so I have to rent a plumber for $500 to tell me that my line's clear. And last week, here we go again. It's already starting to back up. I don't know what to do. I love this town. I know many people here. I have been a part of, I've worked for the county, my mother worked for the county, my brother worked for the county, I worked for 4-H. I know, my parents did Pop Warner, Little League, I played, my brother played. I know everybody here. I work in this town. I just want somebody to tell me why everything else seems so important, and for 35 years, I can't get a single answer, and then you ask me for police reports, you ask me for fireman's reports, you ask me for insurance reports, you ask me, I have it all. And I still get letters back saying it's not your fault. And every week, the sewer's still backing up. I pay sewer tax, so whose fault is it? I have plumber's reports, the plumber says it's clean. I got the scope, I got everything. And now, I can only imagine if another 21 toilets go up there, what's gonna happen? And I feel horrible for everybody that got flooded out. But they're talking about every 3 years. I'm talking about 5 times in 1 year now. That I had to throw things out, replace them, pay money, go to doctors, and feel like I'm getting nothing but a letter back from this town. Not even, finally I got a personal visit from the mayor the day that it was beautiful out and I was overflooded. That was the first time from anybody in this town in over a year to say, I'm sorry this is happening, and we're gonna at least look into it. And I do know a lot of people, and the people are upset for me. And it's not gonna get better unless somebody wants to try to work with me and tell, I'm willing to come up with a basic solution if there's something that we can do on our property. But I can't get anybody to even talk to us. And it just keeps happening. I was petrified today that when I got home from work, I'd be flooded out again. Sewer flooding because of this rain. That I stood and looked for 3 hours. That's how I spend my time. It's unbearable. And I'm here to ask for somebody to come up with some kind of idea, suggestion, opinion on what we can do at our residence in this town where we pay a sewer thing every quarter, and we volunteer and we help, that there's someone that is going to be legitimately interested in trying to help us fix this problem.
It was my understanding, and Governor Kirk, that our T&M, our sewer engineer, went out there.
He never walked in my house. He stood in my driveway for 15 minutes, and he said there was no problem, and then it took a week, and then I backed up again, and then somebody came out and he sent a truck. Now, mind you, I have pictures in here of a truck that has been at Somerset Medical Center 5 times in the last week. I've got the dates, I have the date stamped, and they are removing sewer flooding from the hospital basement and their gutters. So if they're backing up, you know it's coming in. I know you don't own the hospital, but you let it be built. And this problem's been going on for 30 years. I don't know how else to be calm about it or be nice, or what other way would you suggest that I ask for help from you guys? That's what you're here for. When I was a teenager, I was asked by someone from high school to sit here as a teen liaison for Somerville. Okay? I get it. I understand it, and I love this town, I would do anything for it, but it really hurts when you can't even get an answer back, and then you get a written letter in the mail that says, hey, sorry you sent all this paperwork in and spent all the time and lost all your things, but it wasn't our fault. It's disheartening.
Kevin, what's the procedure for
So
getting a scope down
So
the main
there's,
trunk?
yeah, so there's two things here. One is first of all, this ordinance, this thing claim against the borough, so we have to kind of look forward and not necessarily discuss that particular claim. But that being forward, I know that the T&M did go out there. I was there that day. I spoke to, I was on the receiving phone call from Mr. Augustine twice that day. Looking forward, the two things that we looked at was we're hammering that line, right? I know that's been done before and didn't provide the results that were expected as a result of the backup. There was a discussion about seeing if that line had a reverse pitch, which is a gravity-fed system. I'm not a sewer engineer, I'm just repeating exactly what the engineers and our discussions were, was to see if their pitch is sufficient enough to bypass your lateral. The other thing from the homeowner side, and the mayor and I discussed this, was Tina, we put out a best practices for a backflow preventer. You have a restroom facility that's below, in the basement, right? So it's below where normally they would, where you would have a backflow or a check valve in. And the backflow preventer would be an exterior installation. So the mayor and I talked about, is there ability to either get grant funding or fund something like that for people that are getting these backups. Now, as far as the hospital, I can't speak to that and planning and so forth, but those are things from the engineering side they looked at on the sanitary side. I think you currently still have, I gave you a tort claim form, I believe, and I think you have an open claim now as a result, or you don't?
We haven't made it.
I have back to you in 90 days.
Yeah, you have 90 days to make that.
I haven't made any claim, I haven't made any claim since I.
Yeah, all I can
And this
say.
happened after that.
Honestly, I appreciate that you all did this, but I would have appreciated a phone call or a letter or an email that said, listen, we are taking you seriously, and we are discussing it.
Well, I will
didn't
tell you,
hear
Ms.
anything.
Augustine, both the mayor and other council members here called me that day. And we did respond that day. Despite not having a truck available for that, we were able to contact, as you know, Manville to come over and do that, and they flushed the line. I think that was a Sunday or something, and it was kind of an off top
It
of
was a
that.
Thursday, but I just.
It was in the evening.
I mean, I get paranoid when it pours raining.
Yeah.
Because that's how often it happens.
All I can explain is that as we move forward looking at this, we have not diagnosed an issue that's causing that. However, it certainly suggested that there be a backflow preventer because of the depth of your sanitary line. And that, I don't know if that's something that the homeowner would invest in. I don't know. So I know the mayor and I discussed, is there grant funding? Is it an eligible area? Is there something we could do to make funds available for homeowners to participate in that as well? Because you're not the only property.
No, we're not the only property, we just seem to be getting it the most.
No, in the restroom, in the basement.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all the houses across the street do flood, and the only one that's still owned is the Ferris's compound, who I'm sure you all are very familiar with. But the house itself is empty. So they check on it, and they did get flooded down there, but all the other houses across the street from me are owned by the hospital, and they're vacant.
Yeah, so we're gonna film that line and compare it with the film that we've done previously on that, to see if we can actually see if there's any sort of bowing or anything that is causing an additional flow into your lateral, right? That's really the best I can tell you today. But I will assure you, the council was engaged. I know you're saying they didn't come out, but they did call me and I was on the phone with them. But that's certainly what we could do. And again, they're looking to see, because it's a gravity-fed line. It's not, it's to make sure that it has enough pitch so that it continues and doesn't go into your lateral. Now, obviously with the flood, the surge and the compaction in that
Right,
line.
but there wasn't a flood in
shot it.
November or December
Yeah.
or in February when it
Yeah.
happened to me.
And just so you know, is we do have 3 alarms on that sewer line. And what happens is whenever there's a high flow, those alarms go off on our phones. So the mayor did talk about adding several of those alarms in the municipality, in addition to the 3 that we have out there. So on dry weather days, if the flow increases, we're able to say, okay, there's something going on there. And we're able to get either jet truck out there or just do a visual inspection. So that's how we're doing moving forward. I know they wanted to put it flies underneath the cap, the lowest cap. So I know he wants to do that, he wants to fund that. When I say he, the council, sorry, and also to do the video of that line to see if there's any changes. That's where we're at with that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying, we were unaware of any of this, and like I said, 3 times since then, so I hired a plumber thinking, okay, maybe it is me, but it's not.
Yeah.
So your
I
latest,
would also tell
I
you,
went all the way out into the middle of Lincoln Avenue, completely complete, with the thing, and I have the paperwork and the money that I paid for it.
and I know I gave you the tour permit form, and statutorily it's 90 days. So I mean, it's not a borough 90 days, it's by statute. So.
That's fine, it just hasn't been done yet, it's been a lot to just get to this
I
point,
understand.
you know? I mean, I worked down the street at J&M Manor, and they got completely flooded out. So I literally was living in the living room on an air mattress and working out of the dining room because there was no office. You know, it's just been a busy month, but I'll get it in within the 90 days. I just need to know that we're being heard. And I wouldn't say that other than the fact that it's the 5th time it happened this year, so it shouldn't be on your radar now, it should have been on your radar in February when it was the 3rd time. Before there was a flood that obviously was gonna cause backflow. So, I just wanted to say my piece about that, so thank you.
Well, Kevin, what about the I&I program that we have? And how we have to find and eliminate inflow and infiltration?
So the I&I program that we're in, it's actually, right now, the state of New Jersey is very likely to remove us at the end of the year from ACL, meaning that we made all the required improvements that were done. We're probably way ahead of schedule. We spent a lot of money on sewer. So we did do something with Mr. Augustine's neighbors and so forth, which we normally would not have done. We conducted some dye testing of that nature as well to see if there's any issues with the laterals as well. So, I mean, I will tell you that the borough, has probably spent much more on sanitary sewers than any administration has, because, we're currently in an I-bank loan situation for over $3 million that we're doing. All the manholes, we've done an extensive amount of relining, and we're doing, we're eventually doing the main interceptor. And the reason I say that is because the system was so poor. It was very poor, that put us into an ACL, which is a consent order that requires us to spend this money. But we've done it aggressively, and we've been able to reduce I&I as a result of those projects. And we expect literally at the end of this year, possibly being removed by the state from the ACL, which is almost, in essence, like a quasi sewer ban. But I mean, to the, and again, it's not helping the Augustines, they got flooded. But to answer your question is we're actively engaged in that to the point where we may actually be released from those regulations.
Mr. Mitchell, let me remind you, we're still in public, so I would like Mr. Augustine to have a chance to speak. Mr. Augustine?
Yeah, I understand.
Name and address, please, for the record.
Joseph B. Augustine, 83 Lincoln Avenue, Somerville, New Jersey. I also sold a house at 80 Lincoln Avenue, the hospital. There hasn't been occupied in the last 9 years, so I wouldn't want to go inside and see what it looks like. You were there in 98 when it had big flood, right? You were there.
And you were right here, I remember something.
I was in the same house, okay. They found a blockage up on High Street. The mayor and council at the time were DPW with Hendershots, and they got authorization to take a guy who was building the Rite Aid building at that time. He's from Bridgewater. They go over there and dig up the street and clear it out. Now, that was back in '98. You passed retaining basin at the hospital, you did the parking, you built the deck with the retaining basin, you filled up the brook. I tried to put a valve in my house myself, but guess what? I called a jackhammer from Durant's Construction, electric one, I was gonna pick it up, refill my trap, after my trap in my house. I cracked the concrete and I had water coming up. That's where they allowed, back then was, oh God, I can't think of his name, but he was building back in the 50s. That was a lake and a swamp. And they allowed him to build in there. No, oh, I can't think of his name. But the town allowed them to build it on that property, knowing it was, there's underwater springs there. If I have a crack in my cellar, I get water over. It was built on springs, part of a pond that was there years ago, and they backfilled it. Oh, God, I get it. He used to live on Reed Hall. But they allowed him to build on that property there. And hence what that 40 years later, 50 years later, I can't put a trap in my house the way it is. I have to go out in the street. I don't know what to do anymore. Because where my clean out is, I tried to put a trap so that, stop this when it happened. And that's after '98, when I had a big flood. That's when they had the party at the Legion, and you found it, the block over on High Street, off of the Vanderveer. And they took the contractor from building a Rite Aid and took him over that day, and he started digging, and they dug up the pipe. But what I'm saying to you, you know there was a problem in that area. But I have a letter from a resident over on Barktown Street. You redid the sewer lines over there. In 2018, you put in more sewer lines on that street. There was no problem over there. I know. We had a problem over here. You're going to put new sewer lines in. Why don't you do where there's a problem? I have a letter that the borough asked permission after they put the sewer line in on Barktown Street, okay? They sent the residents a letter so they can check out the sewer line from their house out to the street. I have the letter. You did it on Barktown Street, which there was no problem. Why did you do it over where the hospital where you allowing them to build more and more? I don't understand. I don't understand. It's beyond me, to be honest with you. But I'm the one that takes the brunt of it, and I want to see what we can do.
Well, we can't right now revisit
Okay.
what's been done.
Just let me go.
I'm going to direct my
Thank you for your time and your...
I'm going to direct my administrator work with T&M to take a look, not just at this particular site, because if his lateral's clean, something's contributing to the excess flow. And if it's not rainwater, it's not triggered by a rain event, the alarms are not going off, something else on the ground. So we've got to have some contractor, and we will direct them to look at, use the technology we have, see where the flow's coming from, and come up with some alternatives.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your patience.
Time and energy.
No, I thank you for your patience.
Very good.
Any more public? Yes, sir.
Rich O'Neill, 124 West Cliff Street, not talking fire department. I just noticed as I've gone through the paperwork of last Friday that you're talking about awarding a contract to explore dredging of Peters Brook. I don't know whether you know that, it's already been done. Just wondering whether that brook has been thoroughly dredged on many occasions.
Well, Kevin was the one exploring this with DEP, so let's.
This was done in the 70s and 80s, and it decimated the brook, and it didn't solve any flooding. When they dredged the brook out, in a couple of years, it kept scouring Brook. Flooding situation did not abate, but the banks of the brook would cave in. And you had all kinds of ecological damage. I think through the efforts of Plan Clean, finally, common sense prevailed and the brook was allowed to recover. And if you all, you're a runner, I'm sure you run that trail along the brook all the time. The bank of the brook has recovered and the brook itself has recovered. And I'm not a plain green person out there, but I recognize facts. You go down there now, there's herrings, there's cranes, there's ducks, there's fish, there's all kinds of things. They do what they did back in the 70s and 80s, you're going to have nothing but a sluice. It's going to look like a drainage ditch, the figure of Los Angeles or Phoenix or someplace like that, where you put water in the mud. Be very careful to get involved in that. How does somebody think they're really on? But that brook is a victim of the floods. It's not a person. It's a victim of poor planning upstream Bridgewater. Brook's just doing its job. Thanks to Mayor Flockhart, and that's the name for your new meeting, Mr. Flockhart. Thanks to Mayor Flockhart, somebody brought enough to retain as much of our floodplain as possible in some of them. The brook's part of that. But when the water exceeds the level of the floodplain, I don't care if you take that brook to China, it's not going to make a big difference. Anybody here going to do that fluid dynamics study when they're complicated and try to
A little outside my field, but.
okay, well, a little bit of geology fluid dynamics tells you that if you dig a hole in Peters Brook, it fills up with water. You know what level it finds? The same level you have to believe out the hole. So you don't change the carrying capacity of the brook. And you can't dig that brook too deep because the river will back up more readily than it already does. The problem you have with that brook, and it's not a problem, it's called nature, is there a grade differential between Bridgewater Line and Southside Avenue. It's probably about 5 or 6%. I didn't do the top of that brook, nobody's guessing that. That's why that brook is not a babbling brook, but kind of a meandering brook. There's a steady flow, everything is well, and it works fine. When it floods, it's meant to flood. Our problem is that we have been affected by Bridgewater heavily. They have plans, people know we go on that. But also we've got some mistakes. Each specialty departments are basically sitting in the trench. Parts of Roadside Avenue are sitting in the trench. And parts of East Main Street are sitting in the trench. A lot of that filter down there, that's not the visual elevation anyway. So when you go ahead and dredge, you're not accomplishing anything, but you're finding a further degradation of the brook, eroding of the banks, and it's just not a good idea. Think carefully before you move on this. Maybe think carefully before you spend money, sign a contract to spend money on something that I think those Eagle Scouts are right about figuring this out. You know, it's not a complicated book. It's just part of our heritage, part of our plan. Just be careful. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you what to do if you listen to me anyway. But hiring somebody to study something that we really have the answer for, it's kind of backwards. And I don't think the answer's going to change. And you can't beat that book because the river can play back. And that's just a fact of it. We have to learn to live with the book. The book is a victim. We have to live with it.
Rich, you said it was in the 70s or 80s?
Yeah, Ed Wessel was the engineer at the time. If you look up progression, it was in the 70s and 80s. I'm mixing up my generation with this one. But it was back in that, we had to do it at 71 back in there when it was, new experience for all of us. But he was the engineer that actually engineered all that. And it was that time frame. And it was complete, total failure. And it took the book a long time to recover to be what it is today. So I think we should be really careful. That's not a key issue.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Andre Petros, 21 Eastern Avenue, New Jersey, lifetime resident. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak for just a moment or two. A lot of flooding on Eastern Avenue in this past storm, but in multiple storms. I'm not as bad as the Augustine family. I live close to them, but I don't have as bad problems as they do. But I still think I need to be heard. So I've been speaking with Rodney on and off over the last couple of years. Rodney has come out and taken a look at the street prior to the street being paved to see if there was a blockage. It's not a blockage on the storm drains. We gone down and looked in there, and he's looked in there, his team's looked in there, I've looked in there. It's a 42, I think, or 48-inch main on our street, so it's a big sewer line, yet we fill up very easily and quickly. We don't flood as they did, they obviously family multiple times a year, but we flood probably once every other year or so. So it doesn't take an Adhd to come through to flood us out, and our water backs up from Main Street. And I've gone down and taken a look at some of the plans, and it seems as though the water is tees, or the line tees off to Main Street. Maybe possibly the velocity of the water that's coming down Main Street is so strong, it doesn't let the water come out from Eastern Avenue and on the lowest point on the street. So I can get 2, 3, and in this past storm, 4 feet of water out in front of my house. And myself and my stepson are outside trying to stop traffic from people coming down the street and flushing waves of water into our homes. So I'm one of multiple families that flood. We got 3 feet of water in our basement, and the water just seeps in from all around. So I've built a decorative stone wall around my property that's about 1.5 feet tall, but that doesn't stop the water from coming in. And the water can, as it sits out on the street, will automatically start to go down. There's 2 storm drains right in front of my house. One side will go down, and then the other side, as soon as the volume or the velocity decreases enough, like I said, on Main Street. But this past time, the water was so strong that it blew the storm drain manhole cover up, and there was a fountain of water, as Ms. Augustine was talking about, on Eastern Avenue. So I understand there's flooding and there's issues and problems. I just don't know that there are other streets nearby me that are experiencing the same problem. Maybe there are, maybe you know better than I. But I also know there's a lot of water that goes into the sewer line. So quick question, one is there a reason why water goes into the sewer line? Shouldn't the rainwater only stay in the storm drain and not in the sewer line?
Well, pipes have joints, and it's called ion infiltration, and
Infiltration, inflow, and then the other eye that no one ever says, illicit connections. So usually that's the one that someone connects, we don't have a combined system or a separate system by law. But unfortunately, there are cases where we identify connections that aren't supposed to be connected to the sanitary line.
Right.
So they get notified, we separate, then we're separated. The other is I&I. So what happens is the system's over 100 years old, while the municipality's done a very good job in the last 5 years, putting liners in the system, things like that, but water still gets in. And then that's how it gets into the sanitary system, fresh water and sanitary. And obviously that's a cost to the municipality because then it goes to a plant that's treating clean water, which it shouldn't. So that's we're spending a lot of money and effort to reduce the I&I that goes into the system, but that's how it gets in there.
Because the storm drain fills up to the top, right? So if you take that manhole cover off, and you take a look down there, it's 8 feet or so down. And immediately after the water goes down, that storm drain is full of water. So it's a lot going through there. So I don't know.
Generally what you have also is after a storm, even without, with any proper connections, the sump's obviously pumping groundwater from underneath someone's, facility out into either the street or into the storm drain. So that's why you'll see, even though the rain stops, there'll still be movement of water there too as well.
So there's very few sub pumps on our street, at least down in my area. So it's a collection of water, and the water just races. Once it fills up on Eastern Avenue, then it just races between our property and starts to head to Gaston Avenue. So is there any opportunity or something to take a look at the storm drain? Because when I spoke with Rodney, he sent his team down, they sent the camera down, they saw there was no blockage. They got the county involved because Main Street is a county street, I think. So they got the county to take a look there. There's no blockage there. But yet, we still flood, and I think we flood, and we're higher than Gaston Avenue. I think we flood higher and faster than Gaston Avenue does, they're below us. And then the next street above us, while there's properties up there, they get water in their basement, they don't collect nearly as much water as we do. I mean, it's a lot. So I'm just looking to see if there's some relief that could possibly come.
We generally open spaces with relief for stormwater, right? So because obviously, and I know the Environmental Commission is the component of that is when you have roof leaders connected right to the storm drain, it's coming off a roof into the storm drain, and then you're seeing that in the flow of a storm drain, right? If it's not connected and it goes into someone's backyard or retention or detention basin, obviously those are methods that are used to slow down that water in that piping system.
But we're not supposed to tap into the storm drain, right?
The storm drain is rainwater, is
Right. But we aren't supposed to take our gutters and pipe underground.
You can't pipe into the sanitary.
Or we're not supposed to pipe in, can we pipe into the storm drain?
There might be scenarios where a rainwater is piped into storm, which is that's not an illicit connection. Some municipalities
actually go.
Yeah, some municipalities require that to be connected so that the grants doesn't. That's not illegal. Obviously, in an effort for environment, we try to get people to pipe stormwater onto either their land or retention basin and things like that.
Rain barrels.
Yeah, rain barrels.
And that's
But to go into a storm pipe, that's where the water will go eventually.
And that's what we try to do, right? No, none of us on Eastern Avenue between Main Street and High Street, none of us are tapping into the storm drain, but the properties immediately to my left and right were all flooded with multiple feet of water. And so I was wondering if is there a possibility that instead of the pipe on Eastern Avenue teeing into Main Street, if it was a Y and if it would turn, and then allow the water then to drain out faster, or at least to, because it seems to me as though the velocity that must be coming down Main Street is so strong that it just forces the water back. And
pressure than velocity.
sorry, okay, sorry,
Have that conversation with TNI.
Again, not having engineering expertise, if the water's not, if it's flowing because there's no blockage, then there's got to be a capacity issue. Whether the pipe,
Main Street,
and there's really been no new building in that area.
Main Street is flowing. And if I walk to the end of Eastern Avenue, Eastern and Main, it's flowing. There's a large volume, but
It's only the north-south.
but it's flowing. For Eastern Avenue, can't get out, and so we back up, and the pond, the lake that's out in front of the house can stretch, especially in height, it can stretch all the way to Main Street and to High Street.
Yeah, I visualize what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of visualize exactly what you're saying. And you're saying is a way to soften up that turn, basically.
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's something we would have to look at, because if you're getting backflow of stormwater because it's fighting against the water going this way, right? That's something we'd have to look at. And you're saying just make it a Y so it's softer, so that it merges with the flow, opposed to.
If that's the solution.
Conversation I have with TNI.
Yeah, yeah.
If that's the solution, or just tell me that all the other streets to the east and to the west are also flooded. But as I walk around during the storm, the other ones are not.
Yeah.
I mean, they're getting water, but they don't have the water that we have.
It's a localized problem for some reason on that. Roger, if I could ask your experience, you're one block up from this gentleman.
Well, as you were saying, and we say hello about every single day, as I walk my dog past your house, I don't get that, but I know exactly what he's talking about, because I saw that one of our friends had water in his car that he's never had before, a few houses down from yours, and it was this past storm. It flooded up there like I haven't seen. My section, I'm up higher at my house, so we didn't get anything like that. But I know even farther down on Reamer, there were cars floating at the bottom of Eastern Avenue right before 28, which I had never seen before either. So there is definitely an issue, certainly the capacity that we haven't seen before. Because again, I have two friends that live 2 doors down from you that experienced flooding this time that they've never had in their basement prior because of the storm that came through.
Because I ran out to them to get them to move their cars as the water started rising. But mine's the first one. So I move my cars and then I run to my neighbors and then they move their cars. So if we're awake during the day or early evening, we catch it, we're good. Otherwise, we'll
You're saying on a regular, you know, on a normal event, like a rain event, that you would actually get water coming out of the catch basin, like it wouldn't go.
No, I won't say that.
No,
I won't say that. I'll say in a heavy rainstorm. It has to be a heavy rainstorm in a short period of time. I won't tell you something that's not true. It's got to be a heavy rainstorm in a short period of time, and then we just stand there watching. As soon as we see it starting to back up, then we rush out to move the cars and start picking things up. But it's probably once a year, once every other year. But it's more frequent. I've been there for 30 years, so as the years go on, it becomes more and more frequent.
Kevin, let's take a look at the maps. Do we have the piping wall maps?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it comes down to calculations, right, at the end of the day. I mean, it is tough because I know September was the wettest month we've had on record ever.
Sir, if you would leave your information with Kevin this week and get back to me once we get some data.
48-inch main, I mean, that's the diameter. It's big. It's big down there.
It should be able to handle it.
Yep. And that's what Rodney and the other people said too.
So if you leave your information with Kevin, we'll.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Joseph Stigley, 15 Massillon Drive. I have 2 things to bring up. Number one is on Massillon Drive, it is a dead-end street. We get continuous cars off of Mercer Street that come down our street and they cut through. I have, numerous neighbors that complained about it. The cars come through there at 40, 50 miles an hour, right down our street. There's a lot of young kids playing on the street. I don't know if there's anything that can be done about a bigger dead-end sign or maybe an illuminated sign of some sort. But we get a lot of kids playing on our street. When I was growing up at my grandmother's house, I was always playing on the street. I'm always out there with my kids. I'm constantly yelling at UPS drivers, random drivers that come down the street trying to cut through. So I wasn't sure if the borough can do something as far as putting a bigger sign or maybe just checking the sign out there, making sure it's visible to the drivers that come down.
It is marked dead end.
It's a normal
right
size.
Off the burst.
Yeah.
And you would think UPS would know if it's the regular driver unless it's a different driver.
There's different drivers every day, so I get home from work usually around between 4 and 5 o'clock. So it's usually the UPS and FedEx drivers that I yell at. But then we also get like the random drivers, young kids, older drivers that are just coming through there, thinking they can just cut through that road. To get to Mountain Avenue. And then all they do is they turn around, I yell at them, and they go flying back out again.
We'll look at the sign and
I know we have an approved stop sign that's large. I'm just not sure where we have actually an approved dead end sign that's large. I'll check it out.
Are you able to tell them that we have stop signs that have blinkers on it?
I don't know. I mean,
It's not the stop sign. The stop sign is facing the residents that are coming out of that street. It's the people that don't really see that dead end sign.
He's talking about lighting up.
Lighting up and making a larger sign so that they visually see that it is a dead end. So before they make that turn or commit to that turn, they either stop and they pull over or they just continue straight to try and find another way around. And it's probably the same thing for Spear Street. Spear Street probably has the same issue.
Can we do like we did on Cliff, or we put maybe 2?
If they don't have the issue going the other way, it's going in.
No,
It's
I
going
mean,
in.
full facing out.
Oh, yeah. It's like a dead end.
Right, yeah.
It's only on one side of the street right now.
Is
So
it-
maybe
is
try
it-
that
Joe,
first.
is it mostly people traveling south on Mercer or north? They coming off the highway?
Both ways.
Both ways.
It doesn't matter, both
Yeah.
ways.
Well, the no outlet seems to be popular, because I go up around Warren in that area, there's always people that want to bypass that street, but it always is no outlet. It doesn't seem as if people maybe that's a better way than dead end, I don't know.
Well, no outlet means that you could drive through it, but there's no way to get out.
Oh, right.
Dead end, he's on a dead end.
It really
Well,
ends
it's the
at a
same
lot of-
idea.
It's the same concept, but it's,
Because people aren't going there to visit, they're going there to cut through. And I don't know, I mean, maybe you think, no, dead end, I don't know where you put it.
Let's try to add another one.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Another one.
How about a sign that says residents only?
Well, then you can't have visitors with
Well-
deliveries.
We'll figure it out.
Let's,
Yeah,
let-
they're just asking us to look into it,
No,
two
it's-
signs, repaint the
yeah.
signs or something. The second issue that I have is, I know I've sent an email to the borough administrator, the mayor, council members as well, in reference to the property behind Masson Drive that is owned by the borough. It's actually a paper street. It's maintained by Brookside Garden Apartments. They have the issue with all the debris piles back there from 125 West Main Street. All the, there's a lot of dirt, a lot of rocks, a lot of metal debris. Roger's seen it firsthand. Mayor, you came over to my house on a Sunday when I was power washing my fence, and you saw it there. That was very quickly taken care of once you saw it, and you said it was against the ordinance and the zoning for that area. Right now, we're also getting an influx. I mean, I could try and see if I could go back and find pictures, but we probably had 150 cars behind my house lined up in the grass from Brookside. This isn't from Brookside Ave. This is all from the parking lots of Brookside, so they can start clearing out their apartments. And all the cars have been brought behind there. Cars have come and gone, but it shouldn't be our, responsibility to see all these cars back there that have been damaged and flooded. I'm just worried about oil and gas leaking out of these cars that have been damaged from the storms coming into my property. As I brought up before, is that my property does sit lower than the parking lot that's there or the paper street that's there. So a lot of the water doesn't even leave my property. My shed floods all the time. I know you guys are supposed to look into the storm drain right behind my fence. I'm not sure if that was ever done. We also talked about possibly regrading behind my fence because my property sits like 4 to 6 inches lower than that property on the other side of the fence. But all these cars, I think, I don't want to see an issue with my kids playing in the backyard and, blowing around oil at this point. So if you can just have the zoning officer or somebody just come by and take a look at it. Like I said, there's tow trucks in and out of there every day starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. So they're grabbing cars, they're dropping cars, they're moving cars around all over Brookside.
they're accessing that from their parking lot?
They're accessing that off of Mercer Street.
Off of
right-
Mercer.
Yeah, right where the apartment's at.
So Kevin, we talked about that. So what was the outcome?
Well, they were going through the insurance process, and what we did is, just like we had, the process just takes a lot longer, and their effort was to, their insurance companies were picking up, removing them, or disposing of them, and that's the actions that have been taken. Hence some of the activity. It's no different than the borough's insurance, we're just going through the process. I think the process is unfortunately longer than most people would think, or would want, but that process is occurring.
But to Jonathan's point, if they can park on their parking lot area, that's allowed, but if they're parking,
These are people that are no longer want their vehicles.
yeah, but if they're parking on Borough, there's no parking on that Borough street, because there's no street.
Well, no, the issue is that it's my understanding in the conversations we've had that Brookside is moving cars to that space instead of having it in their own lots where they previously were. These are not drivable cars. These are cars.
They're storing them.
These are not drivable cars that are removed from the parking lots of Brookside Gardens, the parking lots, right, and being brought over there behind the residence houses, which is a paper street owned by the borough. I know you guys have, paper between the Brookside Gardens on maintaining the property between the borough and Brookside Gardens, but these are cars that are not going to be used ever again. They're probably just going to be scrapped. Insurance companies, I know that they need to, I work with the insurance industry, I know that they need to look at these cars, get a value on them, scrap them, part them out, whatever they need to do with them. However, when we have issues in the town where they're flooding on streets, you guys hire a tow company to come in, they take those cars off the street, they bring them back to their tow yard, and then they charge the insurance company storage. So why is the borough property now, and the property behind my house, becoming a storage yard for these cars?
So this conversation won't happen, it's only going to happen second.
Yeah, I'll look into that tomorrow, but I do have a better clarity of what you're saying now.
So they're parked too far north.
They're parked all over.
Yeah,
It's
and
not-
they're right up against your fence.
Yeah, you could probably fit one more car in between there, but they're double stacking cars. A lot of cars have moved out of there, but there's still a vast majority of cars coming in and out of there constantly.
I know based on the conversation I was having with Councilman Groom, and I'm thinking maybe they're doing that to clear up an area that not the way we wanted them, put it that way. But I did talk to them about, getting cars that were flooded off their property. I didn't realize they were putting them on a different piece of property. My understanding is they're supposed to be exiting.
They're not going to the field yards at all. They all came right behind all the residents there. So that's what we look at, right on our back decks at nighttime when I go home from work. That's what I'm looking at, is just cars that have been damaged and flooded.
Now,
The zoning officer can go over there.
It's an ongoing issue. It's not cars, it's debris. If it's not debris, it's other materials that are all from Brookside. It just seems like there's a lack of visual perception from the zoning officer to come there and inspect that area. I'm not saying every day, but once in a while, just make, a round to come through there.
I mean, unfortunately, Joe, it is a complaint-driven system, so I know when other complaints were made, I know the mayor went there, the zoning officer, the county soil district went there, so it was a complaint-driven system. We'll have to specifically look at that and address this. I mean, that's the best answer I can give you tonight.
Right. There's also 40-yard containers with metal in it that are being brought from Brookside as they're clearing out these apartments that are also getting dumped there.
Yeah, it shouldn't be used.
That should be
as a dump.
confined to their property. Okay.
They have parking lots at Brookside.
They're all completely empty. They have containers there for sheetrock and wood, but other than that, all the metal is getting put into one container and then getting hauled out of there and then dropped right there along with all those cars.
Well, they should keep that on their own parking lot.
Okay, we want to,
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we had representatives here from Brookside 2 meetings ago, so we'll talk to those representatives and see, where they are.
Let's see the current conditions tomorrow morning, and then address it accordingly.
Yep, absolutely, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll let you come up a second.
Thanks. Chris Cutler, 64 Mount Avenue. I'm just going from asking for some guidance on some topics. Dennis, I think it was the last meeting we had, or meeting before, you said that folks that were flooded out of their apartments, thankfully not myself, would be able to get their entire security deposit back and get any rent refunded for the month of September.
That's state law, to my understanding. They get their security back within 5 days, and any rent for the current month, they would be entitled to get back.
Okay, so it's come to my attention that for at least one of these complexes, the residents were handed a contract to sign saying that they'll get a small percentage of the security deposit back. They need to agree to a non-disclosure that the agreement even exists, and that they can't say anything negative about the landlord, and if they do, they pay $5,000 fine for recurrence.
Kevin, have you heard anything, because I know you've been dealing a lot with our landlords.
That's a civil matter.
Yeah.
We really couldn't weigh in on that.
Yeah, and I realize it may not be a.
Someone wrote me the letter.
You can't be, it's a entirely private contract between the landlord and the tenant, it has nothing to do with the borough.
Right, so again, I'm just asking for guidance. I'm not, I understand the perspective, because I'm not an expert at these things. It's just that, under if it's a state law, just some guidance on who they should appeal to on that matter, especially if it's affordable housing.
Would that be the Council on Housing or Attorney General?
No, I mean, there's been one tenant that I'm aware of that has hired, an attorney from the assistance program that the county offered, and they've made some dispute regarding, they don't necessarily want to terminate your lease. So that's the only thing I'm aware of, but other than that.
This sounds like a strong arm tactic.
Well, so somebody agreed would need to talk to either a private attorney or somebody from legal services.
Some
Nothing
legal
that
services,
the council
can
fix.
Right.
In your jurisdiction to fix.
No.
Correct, and I'm not implying that, I was just asking for some guidance because you're closer to this process as a matter.
Our attorney has good advice there. They need to contact.
You have a plumbing problem, you talk to a plumber. You have a legal problem, you talk to a lawyer.
But it's like I said, it was my
Not in case
understanding
you ask the mayor.
early on that it's protected, in terms of getting their funds back so they can use that going forward.
Right.
So this is obviously a violation of that.
That's what a landlord would do.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, we've navigated a lot of
relationships between
This
landlords
is the
and
plan
tenants.
that
If you have
he
that
has in his
individual
computer.
that has that letter and
Oh,
whatever he or she may want, they could certainly call my office and we would navigate that.
there's something
With either the property owner or
But it's
their representative. We've been I've been talking to,
for emergency service.
So many tenants and so many landlords that have issues. We've been able to navigate the rental system, so now everybody's always happy, but I certainly offer that to the person.
Okay.
Have someone to speak
That's where we have.
Okay, but it could very well be a stand.
Compromise on
The property owner might not have owned it. This brings out the
what
worst.
what he's got. We'll have another.
Let them come back
If
in
you
and
don't
see.
mind.
You know, it's probably not
I've got to
unique to
go.
our town.
Builder of this fucking
Right.
place. Stuck in.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your concern.
It's not your fault, but. Yeah.
All right, motion
No,
to
you
close.
probably talk to him more than I do.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Dan Kabuda,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell, Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. All right, we have consent resolutions. Do we have any that council would like pulled for discussion?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to pull 279 into
Any more? All right, let me summarize these. 278, approving the hiring of Connor Rostelli as a driver laborer in DPW. 281, authorizing the award of emergency contract and payment resulting from the effects of Tropical Storm Ida. 282, authorizing a contract with Winter Ford to purchase two 2021 Ford 350s. 283, memorializing the authorization of an award of emergency contract, again resulting from the effects of Tropical Storm Ida. 284, amending the professional services agreement with CHA to include engineering review and inspection services for the Gaston Avenue Emergency Services Project. 285, authorizing the purchase of the 1996 Pierce fire truck from the Township of Scotch Plains, in the amount of $18,000. 286, authorizing this spooktacular event to be held on Friday, October 29th, waiving parking fees in lots 1, 2, and 4 from 3 to 7. 287, canceling the municipal tax lien, Block P8, Block 1201, known as 48 South Gaston. And that's all I have.
288, accepting the audit.
Oh, okay, we had tried the 2020 municipal audit and execution of the affidavit, which we have to do. Kevin, you got the affidavit?
I don't, I'll
Next
get it to you
meeting?
during the week. We have plenty of
All
time.
right, so that concludes the consent resolutions. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Council members Granville Brady,
Yes.
Dan Kabuda,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell, Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Roger Vroom,
Yes.
Fred Weed.
Yes. All right, 279, approving and authorizing execution of a redevelopment agreement with FDS Somerville LLC for the Gaston Avenue redevelopment area for the development of an emergency services facility. Motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Brady, you had a question?
Not a question, just a comment. This is the meat on the bones of the project because the redevelopment agreement spells out what the redeveloper is obligated to do more than the ordinance, which is simply a blanket allowing him to build. This actually gives us the authority to deal with the redeveloper as a part of the redevelopment entity and is the key to the whole project. Because once
How
we
we
got
manage
the
the
ordinances, that's okay, but now we have to put it's regulatory that we need to do that, so.
Kevin, does this include this payment schedule and the projected timeline?
I'll answer the
Yes,
question.
no.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
It also includes $100,000 in escrow payments to pay for professional fees. It also includes the fact that any remediation you on the site, they will do.
Which includes that pipe.
But also, yeah, that it's very well written that, yeah, that pipe is going to get moved. Even though it seems like there might be problems that beyond the scope of this engineering job. What else? If we wish, we can put solar on the building as well as putting it on the canopy.
Parking canopy, yes.
Yeah. It will go to the planning board under section 31 of the land use law, which says it's a courtesy review. We've already spoken with the gentleman that was sitting here, Claiborne Williams, who's one of the principals, and told him that we'll be appointing CHE as our planner engineer reviewers, and that they will be looking at the plans before they get to the planning board. So I think we've got most things covered in this agreement.
Okay. Have a motion second, roll call.
Councilmembers Granville Brady?
Yes.
Jane Cavuta?
Yes.
Tom Mitchell?
Yes.
Randy Pitts?
Yes.
Roger Vroom?
Yes.
Fred Weed?
And 280, approving and authorizing the Borough Administrator to accept proposals for engineering services and authorizing the Mayor and Administrator to execute the necessary documents to investigate dredging of the Peters Brook, including submission of permit applications. I assume it needs a DEP. So can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion.
This is the matter that Rich O'Neill was talking about. He was saying that this had already been studied, and of course, as he pointed out, water seeps at some level. It doesn't matter how deep the brook is. The water is not going to flow unless the river is lower than the brook. During the flood conditions, generally the water is backing up from the river.
So the depth of the brook is immaterial at that point.
Exactly. So I question whether this is worth doing. I don't know how much.
Well, it's not doing the dredge, it's investigating the ability to do it. That's why I asked Rich when it was done in 1970 and 1980, because they'll get those studies as well, if they still exist.
Well, it seems like we need more time, and I would move the table.
I will second
That move to table takes precedence over the motion to adopt, so motion on the table is to table this resolution. Roll call.
Granville Brady?
Yes, to table.
Jane Cavuta?
Yes.
Tom Mitchell?
that. Yes.
Randy Pitts?
Yes.
Roger Vroom?
Yes.
Fred Weed?
Yes. Motion is tabled. Next item, bills and vouchers. Dr. Brady.
Oh, dear. I move that we pay for bills and vouchers in the amount of $1,173,660.87.
I'll
That's
second
my
that.
motion.
Okay. Sorry. Council members, are you ready? Council members Granville Brady?
Yes.
Jane Cavuta?
Yes.
Tom Mitchell?
Yes.
Randy Pitts?
Yes.
Roger Vroom?
Yes.
Fred Weed?
Yes. Okay, before I ask for adjournment, just a quick comment, not to belabor the point that was made before. Borough councils are often faced with immediate, short-term problems and solutions, but equally as important, long-term projects, visions, concepts, balancing the immediate with the far-reaching. And it's been said several times tonight, but this was an important night. Maybe not as important as those gas lights and sidewalks that I talked about before, but I think in the history of the town, this is a good step. And I appreciate all the hard work, both from our staff, our paid professionals, and folks sitting here. It's hard to predict the future. The last month, I think, has made us quite aware of how imperfect our ability to see into the future falls. But we've got a great community here, and to keep it thriving, to keep it safe, to send a message to current and future residents that we're looking out for them. We did good work tonight. So thank you for all the hard work. Now let's make it happen to the betterment of our community. With that,
Thank you, I will move to adjourn.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
See you in 2 weeks.
We will now, that's the call.